Hi.
Hi.
Should we get started? I think it's time. Yeah, we're getting started right now. Sorry, everyone. I was just trying to get connected to the session. Awesome. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in this afternoon. We're so excited to be chatting with you all today. Michael and I are both from Loblaw Digital. My name is Bobby, and I am the manager of employer brand at LD. I'll hand it over to Michael and introduce himself.
Thanks, Bobby. Hi, everyone. I think I'm echoing, but my name is Michael Guzman. I am the Director for Talent Acquisition and Strategy at Loblaw Digital. We're so excited to be here and, really excited about, meeting all of you. This topic is really close to our hearts. Bobby is leading employer brand for Loblaw Digital, and I'm, leading recruitment. So we really partner on a day-to-day basis. And, when we think about, how can we add value to this conversation? We have a really good kind of agenda, a really good topic that we can share with all of you. And then we'll leave a few, minutes to do some Q&A and help answer some of your questions as well. Okay.
So let's dive right in. We can chat a little bit kind of about what we do and why personal brand is so important in this industry where there are so many people doing a lot of the same roles and it is quite competitive. So my role at LD, I manage our employer brand team. It's a fairly new team at a lot of different companies. At LD, we have been around for about a year. And what we do is really establish Loblaw Digital as a thought leader in the employer space. So making sure that our audience of candidates are aware of all of the awesome things going on at LD, everything we have to offer, and really promote the work that we do as a team so that it's very obvious what people would be working on if they were to join our organization. We also manage our social media channels. We have an in-house graphic designer who makes sure that anything that we're doing internally or externally looks beautiful. We work on a lot of our diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts, as well as we have this dotted line to talent acquisition so that we can make sure that we're supporting their efforts through creating a really strong employer brand, getting candidates into the pipeline and into Michael's world.
And in terms of my role, so I lead all of our recruitment efforts. So we do have a recruitment team at Loblaw Digital. So they are the ones, I would say they're the gatekeepers to Loblaw Digital. So we have, recruiters that support all of software engineering. We also have recruiters supporting product at Loblaw Digital, which includes like product management, product design, technical project management. And then we also have recruiters to support other parts of the business. So that would mean online grocery, business strategy, operations, and we also have Joe Fresh as well. So Joe Fresh and Shoppers Drug Mart, from a digital perspective, we also recruit for those. So I do have a very passionate group of recruiters, and I think as you continue your journey in exploring opportunities, whether it be at Loblaw Digital or outside of Loblaw Digital, you will come across recruiters. And, our job here, Bobby and I, is to help you and how do you position yourself, how to network, what are some areas that you could really strengthen and really enhance so that you are prepared, you're having the right conversations, and you're tapping the right people as you are exploring, your career journey. So that's what we do at Loblaw Digital. So Bobby, I'd love to ask you, thinking about when you first, started and after you graduated, how did you ensure that you were networking and that you were tapping the right people? Like, what did you do to land your first job?
So what was interesting was to land my first job in tech, I kind of took a weird route to get here because my degree is actually in advertising and graphic design. And I kind of just ended up working in tech because I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I had been working at summer camp in the summers in North Ontario, but I was actually living in Michigan at the time. So when I was working at a summer camp, I found out about this summer camp enrollment software that the camp was using. And I wanted to move to Canada. I wanted to continue working in what I thought I wanted to continue working in the camp environment. And I got in touch with this company, told them, what I had been doing, and said I'm a fast learner and I just really want to get my foot in the door with this software company. And they were interested. They replied, and I had an interview that March. Received a job offer the same month, and then moved to Canada in September of that year. So that was really exciting. I did one more summer at camp, but separate. So that's why I was in September. But that was really how I got my foot in the door for my first role in tech. So that was kind of through like what I'll call community building. So recognizing the community that I was a part of, which in this case was the summer camp community, finding an opportunity that fit that niche that was also in the industry that I was interested in transitioning into, which at the time was tech, but then also with like that little summer camp spin, and just honestly reaching out, finding out who it was that I needed to touch base with. So doing my research on LinkedIn, doing my research, exploring their website, Glassdoor, finding out who the best person to reach out to would be, and then just going that route. So I think for my first job, the most important thing that I did was recognize my community, or a community that I was a part of, and then really digging into the research and recognizing the brand that I was reaching out to, recognizing the type of communication they had online, and how I could best communicate with them. So that was that first role. While I was in that role, I loved doing a lot of our culture activities. I loved organizing events. This was like separate to my role. And I decided I wanted to do that full time. So that was more community building. And to transition to my next role, I continued to attend events, continued to really put myself out there, find out what was happening around me, what was happening in tech in Toronto, and in making sure that I was continuing to be present on LinkedIn. And anytime I was at an event, posting about the fact that I was at that event on LinkedIn. And I ended up getting a second role or at another company, actually doing their social media and their events, but it was a tech company. So it just allowed me to continue down that path. So for this audience, for all of you listening, I think my biggest piece of advice early in your career is finding a community, finding people who you jive with within that community, and really putting yourself out there. I know we're virtual right now, but I think even attending this event here, Hack the North, is a huge way to really practice that skill of community building and meeting other people who are into the same things as you and who want the same things as you, especially professionally, at Hack the North. How about you, Michael? How did you land your first role in tech?
So I've been with Loblaw now for 7 years. So I've been here for a while. And prior to joining Loblaw Digital, I was at PC Financial. And, for me, I really moved around because I wanted to diversify my background and my experience. And, after the pandemic or during the pandemic, that's where I really saw that our e-commerce business really accelerated. Loblaw Digital was busier than ever. Everybody wanted to use the app. Everybody wanted to use PC Express, our e-commerce sites for Shoppers Drug Mart and Joe Fresh. And I wanted to be part of that. I want to be part of the future of how we shop, how we communicate with customers, and how do we ensure that we provide the best experience to our customers online. And I raised my hand. I saw this opportunity to lead, recruitment for digital. And so far, it's been amazing. I've been here for a year now. And, I see a lot of really passionate individuals that really want to make a change. And what I'll say is, oftentimes we see, developers, you could be dev one, you could be dev two. When you're applying for a role, you feel like you don't have a lot of experience. And, what we're looking for really is the potential. Skills, obviously, experience is key, but we're looking for potential. We're looking for things that you may have done that's not, work related, but it's more, either you've done it as a hobby, or, you can add it as, your portfolio, you were doing it, outside of school. How you manage that and how you tackle that. These are the things that are really critical and important as you apply for jobs. Experience is key, but we're really looking for potential, and we're looking for, drive. Drive is key. And I think that would really get you far. So, my advice, I think, as this is fantastic. Hack the North is great. You're making a lot of connections to some really big players within the industry. And, we really wanted to be part of Hack the North because we know that the value of being here is immense. We get to meet all of you, and you're all very driven, and you're all very passionate, and we want you to be part of Loblaw Digital. And we want to help you get to do some amazing things at LD, as we call it. So yeah, and again, we're happy to answer any questions after. And I think what I wanted to touch on next, Bobby, is you mentioned around networking. And a lot of people get really intimidated with reaching out to people, or what to even say when you're on LinkedIn, or you see people that are doing amazing things on the blogs, but you're afraid to introduce yourself because you don't know what to say, because they're probably getting like a ton of messages. Knowing that this is kind of our world right now, what is your suggestion for, the hackers to start thinking about when they're reaching out to people, particularly within our industry?
Yeah. So I think I think there's like a couple different steps as we like kind of start to dive into those reach outs and putting yourself out there. And I think tying it back to your personal brand, I think, is where you want to start. It's super, super important that when you're reaching out to someone, that the platform you're reaching out from has your profile attached to it. So if you want to reach out to someone and you just plan on like sliding into the DMs on LinkedIn, amazing. Make sure your LinkedIn has a cover photo and a profile picture. So that might sound super basic, but the number of LinkedIn profiles out there that don't have photos or that are really, really bare bones, it can just come across as someone just joined so they could message you. So I would say make sure you have, it doesn't even have to be like a photo of you really close up, like just something that represents your personality and your brand. And then the cover photo as well. Like you can go on Pinterest and find some cute LinkedIn cover photos, and they don't have to be cute necessarily. But just making sure that you have really elevated your profile, I think, is really, really important. So same for if you're going to reach out on Twitter, make sure you're not reaching out from just a blank Twitter profile. Again, really enhancing your brand there, making sure that in the bio of any profile that you're reaching out from, you have a little bit about yourself, or like a fun fact, or your link to your GitHub, your link to your website, your portfolio, or a link to a really interesting blog article that you've just written, maybe actually something that you've read that you enjoyed, really trying to make sure that if someone clicks on your name from the message that you've sent, they are getting to know you a little bit. If you love video games, that can be part of your personal brand. Maybe you stream on Twitch. How can you really present who you are to the world in a portfolio? There was someone at LD recently who is a Twitch streamer, and it's really cool. She's like a coder and a Twitch streamer. And so her personal brand is actually all about her Twitch streaming, which is so fun. But then she's also got like her Git portfolio on her profile as well. So I'd say that is my big thing, is make sure whatever platform you are contacting someone from, when they click your name, they get to meet you. And it doesn't have to be super detailed. Just make sure there's something there. Make sure it has your interests. Maybe you don't have a ton of professional experience, but you've got some freelance projects you can talk about. Really putting that out there to the world goes a really long way. Then when you are reaching out to someone, part of the reason why it's so important for you to have a profile is because when you're reaching out to someone, what do you want to be able to do? You want to be able to research that person and learn about them and be able to relate to them, or be able to find some common ground with that person that you can speak to when you message them. So let's say you hear that, so Lauren Steinberg is the SVP of Loblaw Digital. Before messaging Lauren, you would go ahead and Google her name. You might see a cool panel that she spoke on. You might see a blog that she wrote. You might see an interview with her or a podcast. You know, she was recently featured on the LinkedIn for Product faculty. She spoke at a panel for Sunday Showers a couple of years ago. So you want to do your research and really understand, you know, what's that person passionate about? What is their subject matter expertise? What's some interesting work they've done? What's an interesting blog post they've written? And then referencing that research when you reach out to them, you know, saying, hey, you know, I read your blog post on release engineering. It was so interesting. I loved what you said about this. I would love to work on that too. How can I get involved with that project? Or how can I join your team? Or do you have internships available at your company? Really show that you know who you're reaching out to, and that you care about more than their job title, I think is really important. You don't have to like compliment them beyond the work that they do that you are interested in doing as well. Basically, what you're trying to do in these scenarios is turn a cold reach out warm. So you've never met them. So some people call that a cold call. Warm it up. Find a way to let your personality shine through and show that you care about them as well.
I love that, Bobby. And just tagging onto that, I think, you know, part of the thing that, you know, when we're looking for when you're on LinkedIn or when you're on social media, any social media platform, is we actually look at your activity. We want to make sure that, you know, you're sharing articles, you're really active. Even Twitter is like a really good platform. You know, Twitter is something that I see a lot of developers that really utilize that platform to make connections. I actually want to give an example because I thought this was really cool. So, you know, there was one, you know, recent grad. Her dream job was Shopify, and I think you showed me this, Bobby. And she, you know, created this really, really cool resume that looks like Shopify because it's on brand of what she wants and where she wants to be. And she actually landed a tweet from one of the executives being like, I love that you did this. I love your passion for our company. I love that you're really interested. We're going to get you an interview. So I think something like that, like utilizing, you know, Twitter as like a really great way to connect, not only, you know, to professionals, but also companies that you want to really target and really make connections to. Another thing is, you know, when you're on LinkedIn, a lot of people really use LinkedIn to share knowledge, right? Like you're liking things, you're sharing posts. And the more you're seen as someone who's really, really keen and really interested in making sure that, you know, you're out there and that your brand is really well known, it's really going to help you make connections online. So really encourage you to utilize any platforms that you have. And then one last thing that I want to mention is Clubhouse. Like I know Bobby and I really wanted to do a Clubhouse talk, but I recently was on Clubhouse, and there's a lot of, you know, really recent grads there that were in software engineering, and they're just there networking. They're attending some of the talks from some of these seasoned, you know, engineers as well. And I think it's a really good way for you to make connections as well. So we are living in a world where connections are so easy to make. You know, it's at our fingertips. So how do you use that efficiently and effectively, you know, I think is where you will find success.
Oh my gosh, I have not been on Clubhouse in so long. I like started to forget about it. And then you bring it up now. I'm like, oh, I should get back on there.
Yeah.
I really do think that a huge thing, I know when I was in university, people kept using the word connections And I was like, where is everyone getting connections? Like, I don't have connections.
Right.
I was like, are my professors like connections? And I think that that word can get so, so intimidating. Um, but I also think that what a lot of folks don't realize is that the people you're in school with are your connections. The people that you are, you know, playing games with are your connections. Your friends are your connections. And I think just as we all grow in our careers, we really start to realize that. So I don't want the word connections to be as intimidating as it can come off as. I know I was always just like, where do you get those? Like, is there like a store? Um, but yeah, I think when you're reaching out online, when you're really trying to make new friends in this industry, having that online presence is huge, especially in this remote environment that we're in right now. I have to agree with you on the Twitter front. When I was really trying to break more into the tech scene, so we're in Toronto, Ontario. There is a tech community like everywhere nowadays. Toronto has this really, really bustling tech scene. It's awesome. It's kind of like a small town, but in a big city. I hopped on Twitter. A girlfriend of mine who ended up being a bit of my mentor for me was like, definitely get on Twitter. So I'm like, okay, what do I even tweet about? So I just kind of started like replying to tweets of people who I admire, retweeting them, and then starting to think, oh, okay, like what are other people talking about? Cool. I can also share my opinions on that, or following TV shows that I love, and just talking about those things, but then also continuing to you know, mention any blogs that I've written. And you can tweet about the same thing multiple times. Like tweeting about a blog that you wrote once, yes, will get you some traction, but carry on talking about that blog. You know, tweet about it on Monday, tweet about it on Tuesday. Just make sure you're like sprinkling things in between. Nobody will even notice that you're just at the top of their feed constantly with your portfolio, with your blog, with the event that you're excited to go to. Just continuing to be present is really, really important. And I can't stress enough how many people. Sorry, I'm having trouble here. My watch is thinking I'm talking to her. I'm not. I can't stress enough how many people in leadership roles are on Twitter, especially tech Twitter. That's even like a niche on Twitter is tech Twitter. And this talk doesn't have to be all about Twitter necessarily, but I would definitely say it's a great place to start and just go in and follow all the tech people that you're interested in. You can just search companies that you're interested in, and the people who work there tend to have that in their bio. You can start following them there. And they love it. Like you can comment on, you know, someone who you look up to's most recent tweet and just be like, I love that you said this. By the way, I've been following you for a while, you know, so excited for you to be sharing what you're sharing with the world, and people love it. There's also a lot of job postings on there as well.
Exactly.
So that's definitely a lot about finding your community. Can happen on there too. It can happen on Twitch. It can happen on LinkedIn. So I think, you know, just continuing to find your community and then letting that community help define your personal brand is something that I think a lot of people miss. So I think when you work in tech, it's so easy to be like, well, I should just talk about tech all the time. No. If you watch Grey's Anatomy, for sure, you can join Grey's Anatomy online things. Who else might love Grey's Anatomy? So many people in your industry. So this is just an example. But there are so many different ways to create those warm cold calls, I think, is what I'm trying to get at with these examples.
And I love that. And I think, you know, part of our first kind of, you know, goal here is to really help kind of establish and define and really guide you in your personal brand prior to you getting your first job. And let's just say, you know, you decide that Loblaw Digital is the place to be. We hope it is the place to be for you. There is a lot of opportunities to really continuing developing your personal brand at Loblaw Digital. You know, the beauty of Loblaw is that we are an enterprise company. So we touch on pharmacy, we touch on apparel, Joe Fresh, we touch on, you know, grocery, and we touch on all these different areas that really all of us are customers. And, you know, we do also have PC Optimum, which is the number one largest, you know, rewards program in the country. So for you to be a part of something this magnitude, you are able to really establish your personal brand here at Loblaw Digital, because you could be a developer for, let's say, a year or two supporting Shoppers Drug Mart, and then you move on to become another, maybe developer to support Joe Fresh. Like, you're really adding a lot of things in your bucket, and you're adding a lot of experience and skill set, which really enhances and elevates your personal brand as well. So, at Loblaw Digital, we do have, we obviously hire, Dev 1s, we have Dev 2s, and then we have senior devs. And then you can become, either an individual contributor that is a really seasoned developer, or you could be a people manager to become a software engineer manager. And then we do have, directors and senior directors as well. So the path to, growth and development at Loblaw Digital is there. And we're super thrilled that we're here today, because we have a lot of opportunities right now at Loblaw Digital. And, we want to be able to help you as you continue to develop and establish your personal brand.
Yes, this is true. And there are actually additional ways that we actually help people establish that personal brand beyond the growth aspect. So we have a blog at our company that we invite anyone to contribute to if they have something that they want to talk about. I actually recently wrote a blog post on our internship program, so it's on our Medium page if you want to check it out. And that was really just me interviewing our interns and getting to learn more about the work that they do. So we try to create platforms for our colleagues to be able to hype themselves up and talk about their work. So that can be through them writing their own blog post. It could be through them going through an interview with someone for them to publish a blog post. We also try to profile our colleagues on our social media platforms from time to time to make sure that we are really letting the world know about all of the awesome things that our team is involved in. And then we also have quite a few partnerships, sponsorships, and then just strong relationships with communities within Toronto. So if someone is looking for a speaker for an upcoming event, or if they're looking for someone to host a workshop, we really try to tap our team for those types of things. And anytime you do something like that, anytime you have a mentee, or you're teaching a course, or you're volunteering with Canada Learning Code, or you're doing anything like that, make sure that you are talking about that in your online presence or within your circles. Make your volunteering efforts, your teaching times, the times that you were a mentor, the times that you gave back or engaged with your community, make sure that those pieces are embedded within your personal brand, because there are so many different ways to provide that platform for yourself. But I would definitely say, as you're looking towards employers or organizations to join, try to really look for organizations that provide a platform for their colleagues, that tell the world about how awesome their colleagues are, and that really share the work that their colleagues are doing. I think that for LD, that shows that we have a lot of trust in our colleagues. We trust their names to be out in the universe and for everyone to know how awesome they are. And it also shows that we really do believe in the folks that work with us every single day.
I love that. That's so great.
Mm-hmm. I would love to hear any questions or comments from anyone who's joined us today. Is there anything that anyone wants to learn about from LD, or any questions you all have about your personal brand or your online presence, or speaking opportunities, or anything like that? You can drop them in the chat, or I think you can turn on your microphones as well. But otherwise, Michael, has there been what kinds of opportunities have you seen come through because of the way that you're utilizing your personal brand? For those of you who don't know, Michael's like a LinkedIn influencer.
Stop.
Yeah, what would you say? Do you have any examples of things that have come your way because of your online presence?
Absolutely. I think I get a lot of people that want to connect, and they're looking for a mentor, or they're looking to understand how I've navigated through my career, or they want to simply understand what are opportunities at Loblaw or Loblaw Digital. I think I've been very fortunate enough to have um, quite a bit of following, as Bobby said, on LinkedIn. And I really love connecting with people on LinkedIn and connecting with just people that are either in transition to a new role or they're just starting out in their career. That's sort of kind of my forte, is how do I help people navigate through their career and really guide them, and give my advice. So yeah. What about you, Bobby?
Yeah, definitely. So similar. I've also had things come my way because of this online brand that I've established for myself. I think the biggest thing that I struggle with is imposter syndrome. When it comes to that, like I'm like, oh, I can't believe people want to talk to me. But back at the beginning of the pandemic, I was actually on a panel talking about maintaining company culture with remote teams through this like HR, it's called XREF. And I was so embarrassed because when they reached out to me to be on this panel, I was actually not working. I was actually laid off at the beginning of the pandemic from my previous role. So when they asked me to speak on their panel, I was like, oh my gosh. And I really do believe in leading with honesty. I full on was like, I am unemployed. I was recently laid off. I don't think you want me on your panel. And they were like, no, you seem to have really interesting opinions on company culture and on remote teams and on diversity, equity, and inclusion. We do want you on our panel. So I was like, okay, great, let's do it. And I was on the panel. I was the only person on there without a company after my name. But at the same time, it was really freeing because I didn't have a company to represent. So I could truly represent my own values in that conversation. So that was very cool. And that came my way through some of the conversations I've been having online. And then another opportunity that I had come my way came through Twitter. And that was to take part in something called manager chats. So it's like a live tweet session where you're answering questions about a different topic. And ours was, at the time, it was inclusivity. So that was really interesting. So there are a lot of different ways that you might get contacted or different opportunities that you may see come your way through LinkedIn and Twitter and beyond. I admittedly don't have a GitHub, but that sort of platform. And I think a lot of what you want to make sure you are ready for is the opportunities that may come your way. You hear people talking about, oh, she got lucky with this job, or they got lucky that so-and-so reached out to them. And realistically, people do get lucky with opportunities coming their way, but they have to be prepared to take that opportunity. If the right opportunity comes your way, or you see an interesting opportunity online, but you haven't done the work to prepare yourself to take on that opportunity, it's not going to be a success. And so I think maintaining these online presences, continuing to connect with your community online if possible, and continuing to read folks' blog posts and research the leaders that you're interested in working collaboratively with, you're setting yourself up for success when the opportunity to meet with that person or interview with that company comes along.
Exactly. I love that. Any questions from the group or any thoughts?
I guess we can chat a little bit about what makes an impact for you, Michael, when you are chatting with candidates. How can someone stand out with their online presence or with their portfolio or with their personal brand?
I think it's really articulating what you're passionate about and what you've done and what you're currently doing. Being really structured in your approach. I'm really a firm believer in a structured approach. The delivery and the confidence, I think, would really get you far. And I think a lot of people often feel like, oh, I don't have a lot of experience. I'm not really qualified for this role. Again, I think if you got contacted by the recruiter, or if you had that shot to talk to someone, let's say from Loblaw Digital, treat that as your chance to really showcase what you can do. So always be ready for your elevator pitch, as I call it, right? Like always be ready to say, what you do, who you are, and why you want to be part of either that person's team or that company in general. So always have that at the back of your head, and making sure that you are intentional in your answers. You're intentional in your questions. And what I mean by intentional is you really have given it a lot of thought, and it's really tied into who you are, your beliefs, and your passion. Because sometimes people often ask questions just so they can ask questions in a job interview, right? And but if you become more intentional, that you're really eager to understand, like, what, tell me more about your team, like what is the impact to Canadians, or like how can you support my development and my growth, given that this is my first job. Those are really intentional questions, and that would resonate well with the receiver and the listener. So that would be my advice.
It's great. Oh, someone has asked a question. How do you maintain the connections you make? I did a competition with a company where I made connections, but after the competition, I didn't have much to talk about or any common points to further the connection. Okay, I totally get what you're saying, because I've really experienced that, where I'm like, oh, that person was so cool, but like, now what do I do? So I think it depends on like the platform you end up connecting with them on. So if you were to connect with them on LinkedIn afterwards, or any social platform, I would say like really, really follow them and make sure to like and comment on the things that they're posting. If they give you their email, 100% after that event, or wherever you met them, the competition is done, send them a follow-up email, thank them for meeting you, or tell them it was so nice to meet them. Mention something that you spoke about or that you've seen them do since then, if you can remember it. Otherwise, maybe like Google them and then bring up the thing that you find via your search, and continue that reach out via email. Tell them you'd love to stay in touch. Ask if that person, and if you're with them on LinkedIn, you can send them these messages as well. Ask them if they'd be open to, a coffee chat in the next couple weeks. And if they have felt that the connection was strong with you as well, it's like making friends or like dating. They'll most likely say yes. And then it's kind of on you to then schedule that in. So I would usually follow that up with, okay, do you have a Calendly link that I can book us into? Or, just give them like a bunch of different timing or date options. And when I say a coffee chat, you can do a virtual coffee chat as well. That's totally fine. And then make sure that you're providing them with the Zoom link or the Google link or the Teams link. Really show that enthusiasm through those reach outs. If you don't have their email and it's been a while now, let's say you met somebody in June and like it's now September and you're still like, oh, I wish I had maintained that connection, you can still totally follow up with them via email or LinkedIn DM or Twitter DM or whatever form of communication you have with that person. Say, hey, I actually recently was at Hack the North. I was listening to this talk on establishing your personal brand, or just this talk on like making connections. And it made me remember our conversation, and I really enjoyed meeting you. I'm at this stage in my school or in my career, wherever you're at, and say like, I'm working here now, or I'm doing this now. Mention something you're working on. Mention why you think they might find that thing interesting. You might say, I know you have a lot of experience with GraphQL, and this is something I'm doing now, or whatever. Mention the thing. If there's a link to the thing, send them the link. If there's a blog post you wrote recently, send them that blog post. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the thing that I worked on. Or if you don't have any updates for them, just letting them know where you're at now and how nice it was to chat with them. And, I hope it hasn't been too long, but would love to catch up with a coffee chat or something like that. Just suggesting that you continue those conversations, I think, is huge.
I love that. That's really great.
What do you think about that question, Michael? Do you have any other advice?
No, I think you've pretty much summed it up. I think, it's always, I agree. Like it is a little awkward. You're like, oh, what do I say now? Like, how do we maintain this connection? But I think the more you stay in touch in different ways, like to your point, like, liking comments or, just doing a check-in here and there, I think it really shows that you're, interested in building that connection, and it's not just like a one-off, right? So I think I've done that too in the past, where I meet someone really influential or really cool, and I'm like, but I want to keep that connection, and I just and I congratulate them. And you know what, I know it sounds a little creepy, but on LinkedIn, people, you get notifications of people's birthdays, right? So I'm just like, happy birthday. And then they're like, oh, thanks, how are you doing? So yeah, just keeping that, connection alive, I think would be great.
Yeah, definitely. Birthdays are a great way to reconnect with, honestly, anyone.
Right? It says like a list of people's birthdays, and I'm like, oh my goodness, there's a lot of birthdays.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, no worries. Thank you so much for asking. And yeah, I'm always happy to kind of like, if you want to talk about like specific situations, I'm happy to like, if you want to connect on LinkedIn or something, we can always chat and I can help you through getting through that awkwardness. I'm not like, a LinkedIn connection expert by any means, but I feel like most people are kind of always, everyone's been there. Everyone has been at the beginning of their career. Everyone has been, hoping to meet someone. I have a big piece of advice for this connection thing though. Reach out and continue conversations with people before you want something from them. So if you meet someone at an event or at a competition or at Hack the North or whatever, and you in your brain are like, they work for Loblaw Digital, I want to work for Loblaw Digital when I've graduated. Maintain that connection with them so that you're not only reaching out to them when it's time for interviews, when it's time, oh, can you refer me, or that kind of thing. Maintain connections with people before you want to apply for a job at their company or have them review your portfolio or something like that. Establish a genuine relationship with someone. It'll go so much further. They'll be so much more willing to help you because it'll show that it's a mutually respectful and a mutually interested relationship. You're interested in them beyond the fact that they can help you in your career.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions?
Yeah, is there anything else anyone wants to pop into the chat with? It's so funny because like I always know I'm like, well, it takes a minute to type something, but I don't want to. Yeah. I'm super happy to talk about personal brand all day long. Like I've seen people make little logos for themselves or consistently use, like I love when I see people consistently using the same headshot across all their platforms. I think that's really cool. Or having like the same image on LinkedIn and on Twitter, like the same header image. So that if I'm like, oh wait, is that the same person? I'm like, oh yes, it is. They have that same profile. I think that's really great too. Consistency across platforms. It's not necessary, but it's nice to have that consistency. Yeah. And that cross posting as well. For like really maintaining that. And then it's cool too if like the colors in your header image then match the colors on your resume. There's like a lot you can do, but these are just like branding items beyond a bit just like beyond, but a lot of that consistency can be really cool. I can't say that my resume colors are anywhere near what I have on LinkedIn and Twitter, but now I'm maybe next time.
I've been very consistent with my profile photo and like headline and all of that. So I think it's easier, right?
Yeah, definitely. And then my last thing that I want to leave on the table with is your elevator pitch. So when you first chat with a recruiter or when you meet someone for the first time and they ask you to tell them about yourself, that can be such a daunting question. So I would say spend a little bit of time, write a couple sentences for yourself and establish your elevator pitch. Who are you? What do you do? What do you care about? And what makes you unique? So if you think about it, it's like, who are you? What do you do, whether it's your job or like the job you want? What do you do for fun? And then like a fun fact about yourself.
Absolutely.
Kind of an easy thing. You don't have to like label it that way, but just come up with your elevator pitch for yourself.
I love that. I think the more authentic it is, and you really showcase your personality, it's not so formal, I think would really resonate well. So being really prepared for your elevator pitch is really important.
Would I be comfortable sharing my elevator pitch? It's been a while since someone's asked me to tell them about myself.
Yeah.
Michael, do you have an elevator pitch?
I just saw that. Okay. Yeah, I feel like it's been a while since I've done
We kind of said it like at the beginning, introducing ourselves.
Yeah, I think for me, my name is Michael. I am really passionate about recruitment and talent. I've been in this business for 10 years, and I've gained a lot of experience, dealing with, different client groups. And what I love to do in the future is really coach and mentor other recruiters as well. But in addition, I love having fun. I love having fun at work, and I love connecting with people on a personal and deeper level. And I think that's what makes me stand out.
I love that. And Michael, sorry, I think someone just spoke or had their microphone turned on. Was there a question or comment?
Sorry. Oh, I didn't see that.
Okay, if they pop back on, I'll just stop talking. Okay. But mine, my elevator pitch is usually, my name is Bobby Moore. Currently, I am the manager of employer brand at Loblaw Digital. I am very, very passionate about inclusivity at work, which is why I wanted to go into the field of employer brand to really help companies boost inclusivity through their brand and through their internal initiatives. I also love to travel and try new things. And in my spare time, I'm actually also a circus artist, which is like a whole other thing. But I usually kind of like slip that in there because you never know who else does your like weird hobby. If we're elaborating on that, I'll often include that I have a dog. He's very handsome. His name is Rafi. And then often I'll mention like what part of the city I live in. I try to kind of like include things like that so that I'm, creating opportunities for someone to relate to what I'm saying. And if I already know something about the person that I'm talking to, like if I know, so I live in the East End of Toronto. If I know that they also live in the East End of Toronto, but like maybe they don't know that about me yet, I'm just done some internet sleuthing, I'll make sure to kind of like slip that in. Or maybe if I've noticed that one of their online profiles, they have a dog, I'll make sure that when I'm doing my elevator pitch for that person, I include the fact that I have a dog. So I think your elevator pitch should definitely, you can have like that standard one where you talk about your passion, your fun fact, and make sure that whatever your elevator pitch is, it allows for questions or allows for you to elaborate on that thing. So if I were to say, I love trying new foods, I love to travel, or like one of the reasons why I love living in Toronto is for all the different restaurants, I need to be ready if someone asks me about that. So same with like, if I were to mention circus or any kind of like activity that I like to do, I need to be ready to like go in and dive into that activity. So I have a couple different elevator pitches, I guess.
I love it.
Yeah. And sorry, was there, I think someone's microphone was on, but we missed what they were saying. Did you want to pop back in?
Maybe. Okay.
We're not saying anything. We're opening it for you all to ask questions. Hi.
Hi.
Hey. We can hear you. Okay. Okay, well, we are.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All good. It might be a mistake.
You know what it feels like? It feels like when you're on the radio, you're hosting a radio show, and then people call in, and you're like, "Hey, hello."
Hi.
What got you into circus, Bobby? Tell us.
This is not what this is about. The summer camp that it all comes back to camp, but the summer camp that I was working at had a circus program. So when I stopped working at the camp, I was like, I'm going to do circus now. And so I just Googled like Toronto adult aerial silks classes and I started going after work and then I got really into it. That's a whole other thing.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So I actually have that on my Twitter header image.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So that like if someone's like exploring me, then they end up finding that. Okay. I think we're about at time and I think there's like some voice traffic happening here. So Michael, is there any last points you wanted to make before we hop off? Or any last questions?
No, I think this has been a great discussion. You know, we're definitely open to connecting on LinkedIn if you have any other questions for us. But, you know, my advice is be ready for your elevator pitch. You'll never know when you'll need it. It'll come handy. And make sure that when you have that opportunity to speak to someone, connect with someone, make sure that you're ready. Make sure that you are intentional in your approach and intentional in your questions, because that would resonate well with, you know, the person listening or the person receiving the message. So that would be my advice. What about you, Bob?
Awesome. Yeah, I think mine would be to, like what I was saying at the beginning, it's like any online presence that you have, make sure that you're really branding it with who you are, and including some fun facts about yourself, including your hobbies or something that you're passionate about, something that you don't mind like sharing with other people that you're passionate about, and including, you know, anything extra that you want them to get to know about yourself. So beyond your professional experience, beyond your co-op experience or internship experience, you know, give people a little window to your soul as who you are as a person and really try and build that into your brand. I'm super open if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, you know, just include a message that you saw my talk at Hack the North, and I'm happy to, you know, continue chatting if anyone has any further questions for me, or if you want to talk about like social media presence or even opportunities at LD, more than happy to continue chatting. But yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for joining and for your questions, for your comments. This was awesome, and I hope you all enjoyed the rest of Hack the North.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.